I'm just blown away by the synchronicities that have shown up, because the thing that I had planned had to do with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And I didn't know Cristina was going to come up with all this till this morning. So that was very cool. But, and I didn't know when I started all of this and was thinking about The Lord of the Rings that the Capitol was going to be stormed on Wednesday. So somewhere out there in the ethers, all of the, in the divine algorithm, Lynn, are these fractal waves of influences, stories, thoughts, synchronicities that are coming, that come through. So what I want to do is I've made a little book, but the book has a quote in it, and the quote is between Samwise Gamgee and Frodo. But prior to that, I think I'm just going to do a quick sum up of what leads, what the basic story. You've all seen Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, I'm assuming this. Okay. So just as a quick, recap, it's all about the ring. The ring has this power, and in order for Sauron, who is the ultimate power, the entity that lusts to have all the power, needs that ring because it unites all of the rings. It unites all the power. He must have all the power to himself. And his goal would be to destroy everybody else, so only he himself and his kind will live. Now, that ring has been held by Bilbo Baggins for many years, and now Gandalf gives it to Frodo, who is a hobbit. Only one who is pure of heart would be able to carry it to the mountain of doom and throw it into the fire, because anyone else would be seduced by its power and the lust for power. So Gandalf the Grey wizard knew that the hobbits I love the visuals in this movie. They're about as tall as maybe a 6-year-old child, but they were brave. Small as they were brave. They'd throw themselves into a situation that you'd go, oh, what are you thinking? And then, they would help out. They lived in homes under knolls. They loved nature. They loved the spring when the flowers were growing and plants were growing. They loved consuming the fruits of the earth. They were earthy people. And he knew that Frodo had the hobbit courage, and he knew he had the heart of a child, and was the only one who could take on a terrible task such as this that he would ask of him. And he knew he was asking him to possibly make the ultimate sacrifice. He knew that in asking Frodo, it could take his life. So he appointed Samwise Gamgee, Frodo's friend, who was one who was stout of heart, to be his protector and helper. So he had one who was pure of heart and one who was stout of heart. Okay, I like those two combinations of ideas. And so along the way, they're confronted by a number of groups that had broken, their alliances had been broken, but they came together under this threat. The elves, the dwarves, the men, and am I missing out on a group? Let's see. So they came together in order to fight off the armies of this terrible Sauron. And Frodo, who was carrying the ring around his neck and had to make this awful journey through all of these battles to get to this mountain and throw it into the fire so it would be destroyed, it began to suck away his own courage. It made him vulnerable. It weakened him, this thing that he had to carry. He got to a point where he didn't think he could do it anymore. And there was a moment, there was a point where Sam said, I can't carry the ring for you, but I can carry you. So he throws him over his shoulder and they continue to climb up the mountain. We know what the ring could do to people. We saw what happened to Smeagol, who turned into Gollum, who was kind of a twisted shadow of a human being with eyes that only could see this lust for power. And because of Samwise, because of all the help that he got from all of the allied armies, the alliances, he was able to make it. And finally, in the end, the ring is into the fire along with Gollum. And it is destroyed, and the earth opens up and just swallows up this very evil center of power. And then peace returns. So sometime along the way on the internet, someone published this conversation between Sam and Frodo. And there's obviously so much in the story that relates to where we are today. I'll let you make your comments on that. But before all of that happened, I had read this quote, and I was so moved by it that I thought, at some point I'm going to do something with that. And then this Christmas, I decided to make a little book for each of my sons and their families with this quote in it, because I knew they were all big fans of J.R.R. Tolkien, in which they loved. And so I'm going to read this quote from the little book that I made. It's an accordion book, you know how those are, right? And I'm going to do my best to do this. I'm going to bring the laptop down so you can see the book. Can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I have to have my, on the front of it, I had a portion of a quote, had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. And then on the first page, I put a portion of the quote as well. It's only a passing thing, this shadow. And then we begin the conversation. I can't do this, Sam. I know it's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here, but we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't, because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. And I guess I'm a little behind here. There's the last line. There's the last page. Okay, so I gave that out to my sons and their families. They loved it. And now I've made some more of them because I want to give one to each of you. And I want this to be a giveaway book. So there comes a point when you have something that you've absorbed what it has to give you, and it becomes now something that sits on a shelf somewhere. When it gets to that point in your life, excuse me, I want you to give it away to someone else, someone who you think that this quote would be very helpful to.